Good evening. This is now intermediate accounting covering the topic of liabilities. This is just a continuation of the previous lecture number 13. This is lecture 14, which will cover non-current liabilities. Let's continue with the discussion. So let's define non-current liabilities. All liabilities not classified as current are non-current liabilities. Also, all indebtedness which are to be settled for more than 1 year from the date of the financial statements are considered non-current liabilities. So remember this definition. If your indebtedness or legal obligations are to be settled for more than 1 year from the cut-off date of your financial statements, these liabilities are considered non-current. Example, if our cut-off date is December 31, 2019, all our liabilities payable within 2020 are classified non-current liability. All liabilities which are to be settled beyond 2020 are to be classified as non-current liabilities. It depends on the cut-off date of your financial statements. Again, if your financial statements cut-off date is December 31, 2019, all liabilities to be settled beyond 2020 are considered non-current liabilities. Non-current liabilities. Let's continue. So non-current liabilities include the following. Letter A, non-current portion of long-term debt. We will discuss them one by one later on. Letter B, finance lease liability. Letter C, deferred tax liability. Letter D, long-term obligations to officers. And letter E, long-term deferred revenue. So these are examples of non-current liabilities. Of course, we have plenty of non-current liabilities. These 5 are the basic or the most common non-current liabilities. Let's discuss them one by one. Non-current portion of long-term debt. So you have a long-term obligation. That long-term obligation has a non-current portion, meaning to say the portion which can be settled within the current period is considered all those obligations which can be settled for more than 1 year of that long-term debt are considered non-current liabilities, while those which can be settled within the current year are current liabilities. That is why your long-term debt is classified into 2, current and non-current. We are talking here of the non-current portion of long-term debt. So we have here an example. Kate Company borrowed money from PNB, Philippine National Bank, on January 1, 2020 amounting to 5 million pesos, payable for 5 years. Take note of the date when the loan was released to Kate Company. So PNB granted a loan on January 1, 2020. This is a long-term liability because it is payable for 5 years. The payment of 1 million is to be made every December 29 of every year, plus 6% interest per annum or per year. So that is the data. That is our example. Question number 1. For December 31, 2020 financial statements of Kate Company, how much will be the loan balance payable to PNB? Question number 2. How much is the current portion of loans payable to PNB as of December 31, 2020? And question number 3. How much is the non-current portion of loans payable to PNB as of December 31, 2020? So we can understand this type of liability if we can answer these 3 questions. So let's answer them one by one. Question number 1. For December 31, 2020 financial statements of Kate Company, how much will be the loan balance payable to PNB? So let's compute. The original amount of loan granted by PNB to Kate Company is 5 million pesos. According to the agreement, annual payment of 1 million pesos every December 29 is to be made to PNB. Meaning to say, on December 29, 2020, Kate Company paid 1 million to PNB. That's why we have to deduct the payment made on December 29, 2020 of 1 million pesos. So, the loan balance as of December 31, 2020 is 4 million pesos. Because the 1 million was already settled on the first year, that was on December 29, 2020. Question number 2. How much is the current portion of loans payable to PNB as of December 31, 2020? Our cut-off date, the cut-off date of the financial statements is December 31, 2020. So we are now asked, how much is the current portion of loans payable to PNB? What is being asked here is the current liability out of this long-term debt. So, the current portion is 1 million pesos. Why? Because the cut-off date is December 31, 2020, and anything that is payable within 2021 is our current liabilities. Therefore, the current portion which is payable on December 29, 2021 is 1 million pesos. So that is question number 2. What is question number 3? How much is the non-current portion of loans payable to PNB as of December 31, 2020? So, our financial statements cut-off date is December 31, 2020. We are being asked how much is the non-current portion, meaning the long-term liability, the long-term payable to Philippine National Bank, meaning to be paid beyond 2021. So, the loan balance as of December 31, 2020, as computed in question number 1, is 4 million pesos. We will deduct the current portion of that loan to PNB to be settled on December 29, 2021 of 1 million. Therefore, the non-current portion is 3 million pesos. So let's explain the current portion. Since the cut-off date of our financial statements is December 31, 2020, payables within 2021 are classified as current. I have mentioned this earlier. Since our cut-off date is December 31, take note of that, December 31, 2020, anything that is payable within 2021 is current. That is why 1 million is the current portion. How about the non-current portion? Payables beyond 2021 are classified as non-current because our cut-off date is December 31, 2020. Let's proceed. Let's proceed to the number 2 example of non-current liability. Finance lease liability. Let's define what is finance lease liability. What do you mean by the word lease? Lease is synonymous to rent. When you are leasing a property, that means you are renting the property. So what do you mean by finance lease? A finance lease is a method of financing assets where they remain the property of the finance company that hires them, and the lessee pays for the hire of the asset. So, in finance lease or lease financing, others call it lease financing, there are two parties, the lessor and the lessee. The lessor is the one allowing the lease of the property, and the lessee is the one renting the property. So in this case, we are talking of finance lease. Using a finance lease means the assets will appear on the lessee's balance sheet with outstanding rentals represented as a liability. That is why it is a liability. We call it finance lease liability. The lessee is the one renting the property, the asset. That asset being rented by the lessee will appear on the balance sheet of the lessee as one of its assets. At the same time, there is a liability. That is the unpaid rental to the lessor. That is how finance lease liability works. I prepared a diagram on how finance lease works, and that is presented on the next slide. So let's see how finance lease works. So I decided to choose the example of Philippine Airlines and Philippine National Bank. Everybody knows the business of Philippine Airlines. They are involved in the business of transporting people and goods from the Philippines to other countries and vice versa. If that is the case, they need airplanes. Every now and then, after a certain period of time, this airline company is always upgrading their aircraft. Upgrading means they have to update or they have to acquire new aircraft for the benefit and safety of the passengers. So let's see this example. So Philippine Airlines, one of the leading airline companies in the Philippines, entered into a contract. What is that contract? We call that finance lease agreement. Philippine Airlines entered into a contract, the finance lease agreement, with whom? With a bank, and that is Philippine National Bank. What is the relationship between the two? So there is a meeting of the minds between Philippine Airlines and the Philippine National Bank. So, and that meeting of the minds is called finance lease agreement. So what is the relationship of the airplanes with this contract? That means PNB, the Philippine National Bank, will acquire what? Airplanes or aircraft. Philippine National Bank will allow Philippine Airlines to use the aircraft. Legally speaking, who is the owner of the aircraft? The owner is Philippine National Bank. The aircraft will be rented by Philippine Airlines. Philippine National Bank finance the purchase of the aircraft, and then they will allow Philippine Airlines to lease the aircraft to be used in their business. That is why it is called finance lease agreement. In exchange, what will be the obligation of Philippine Airlines? Philippine Airlines has the obligation to pay rent to Philippine National Bank, and any unpaid rent is classified as finance lease liability. So that is how finance lease liability works. According to the finance lease agreement, there is a term. Let's take, for example, the term is 5 years. In 5 years' time, Philippine National Bank will allow Philippine Airlines to rent the aircraft that it purchased. Philippine Airlines will pay rental to Philippine National Bank. What will happen at the end of the year, or at the end of the term? The term is 5 years. What will happen after 5 years? Philippine Airlines will make a choice whether to acquire the aircraft at a lesser price or just allow PNB to have the aircraft, being them as the owner. So Philippine Airlines will make a choice, that is lease or purchase decision. So it will depend upon Philippine Airlines if they will acquire ownership of the aircraft being used in their business. That is why it is called finance lease, because the lessor finance the purchase of an asset, and the lessor allowed the lessee to lease the property purchase, and that asset is being used in the business of the lessee. In return, the lessee will pay rent to the lessor, and any unpaid rent is called finance lease liability. So that is how finance lease liability works. Next, we have deferred tax liability. This is the third example, most common example of non-current liability. Deferred tax liability. Let's define. Deferred tax liability is a tax that is assessed or is due for the current period but has not yet been paid. The Bureau of Internal Revenue assessed you to pay this amount of tax that is payable within the current period, but you decided to defer the payment. What do you mean by deferred? Defer. You decided to postpone the payment, not today, but in the future, in a certain future date. That is why it is called deferred tax liability. You deferred the payment. Instead of paying today, you deferred it on a later date. You postponed the payment on a later date. So let's have an example. Carter Company sold merchandise on account for 1 million pesos on January 2, 2020. That is on account. There is a receivable from the customers of Carter Company. Collection is due on May 2, 2020. Today is January 2. Carter Company sold merchandise on account. They can collect on May 2, 2020. If the company availed the quarterly percentage tax, payment of tax can be deferred upon collection of accounts receivable. Hence, a deferred tax liability shall be recognized at the end of the first quarter. What do I mean? I hope you still remember your taxation. Percentage tax is being paid every quarter. The end of first quarter is March 31. Meaning to say, sometime in April, you will pay the percentage tax based on gross revenue. since the 1 million was sales on account, there is no cash collection yet, you decided to defer the payment of tax upon collection on May 2, 2020. That means you will recognize a liability to the Bureau of Internal Revenue. Supposed to be you have to pay the tax on the first week of April, but you decided to postpone the payment upon collection on May 2, 2020. As of March 31, 2020, you will recognize a liability, and that is a deferred tax liability. Next, long-term obligations to officers, another example of long-term liability. We can understand these long-term obligations to officers by giving examples. Typical examples of long-term obligations to officers are post-retirement health care benefits of company officers, which are payable for more than 1 year, and deferred compensation to selected company employees and officers. When an officer of a company retired from service, the company usually give health care benefits. This may probably be the unused health care benefits of that certain executive. So if that health care benefits are to be paid not on a lump sum basis but on installment basis to that certain officer, that will be recognized as a long-term obligation to officers. So that is how we explain this long-term obligation to officers. So in some instances, as I have said, there are some unpaid health care benefits to retired officers. These were recognized as long-term obligations. Compensation of some employees are deferred for some valid reasons, like pending administrative cases or those newly hired employees with unsubmitted requirements. There are some employees who have pending administrative cases. Administrative cases means that certain employee was involved in some irregularity, not necessarily a fraud, but maybe negligence, gross negligence that affects the company seriously. So those employees with administrative case may be offered a graceful exit, meaning they are asked to resign, but they will receive their compensation. The compensation, or in some instances it is called retirement benefits, will be given to them on installment basis, or in some other reasons, as the company is waiting a certain period of time before they will release the benefits to employees with administrative cases. And that is a long-term obligation to officers. Also, there are some newly hired employees whose requirements are not yet completed, and it will take them more than 1 year to submit or to complete the requirements. So, some compensation or a portion of compensation of these employees are being held until the requirements are submitted. Let's discuss long-term deferred revenue. This is also called unearned revenue. So this is otherwise known as unearned revenue, represents advances received from customers for goods or services expected to be delivered in greater than 1 year. When I'm handling fundamentals of accounting, I always labeled this as unearned revenue, and my simple definition is revenue received in advance. It is a liability because we have the obligation to return the amount that we receive if the goods or services are not delivered as agreed upon. I repeat, unearned revenue or deferred revenue is considered a liability because we are legally bound to return the money to the customers if the goods or services are not delivered as agreed upon. So the journal entries are the following. If we receive the money as advance revenue or advance income, of course, the entry is debit cash, and we will credit a liability account, long-term deferred revenue, or long-term unearned revenue. Again, this is considered a liability because we are legally obliged to pay, to return the money to the customers if the goods or services are not delivered as agreed upon. After the goods or services are delivered, we have an adjusting entry. Debit, long-term, deferred revenue, and credit, sales or service revenue. That means we will only recognize the income or revenue upon delivery of the goods or services. So let's have an illustrative problem for unearned revenue or deferred revenue. Carter Company's nature of business is to render maintenance services and repair to industrial equipment of manufacturing companies. The company entered into service contracts, agreeing to provide service maintenance to equipment for a 2-year period. Cash receipts from contracts are credited to unearned service revenue, and service contract costs are charged to service contract expense. Revenue from service contracts is recognized as earned over the service period of the contracts. The transactions occurred in the first year are presented in the next slide. So let's see the next slide. So we have cash receipts from service contracts sold of 1 million. This is the amount of cash that we receive from the customer for the service contract in maintaining their industrial equipment. And we paid service contract cost of 500,000 pesos because our company, Carter Company, paid the technical people, the mechanics, the technicians who do the maintenance, and we call it service contract cost. And then the service contract revenue recognized is 800,000, meaning the service was delivered, and the amount of service that we delivered out of the advance payment of 1 million pesos is 800,000 pesos. Prepare journal entries to record the following. Number 1, receipt of cash for service contract sold. Number 2, payment of service contract cost. And number 3, recognition of service contract revenue. So let's prepare journal entries. So let's Prepare journal entries under requirement number 1, receipt of cash for service contracts sold. Debit cash, 1 million pesos, and credit unearned service contract revenue of 1 million pesos. Meaning, the 1 million pesos is the advance payment of the customers for the services to be rendered to them. That is why the entry is credit to unearned service contract revenue. That is a liability account. Why liability? Because we have the legal obligation to return the 1 million pesos in case we cannot deliver the service, in case we cannot render the service as agreed upon. Question number 2. What is the journal entry for the payment of service contract cost? As I have said in the previous slide, service contract cost is the amount of salaries of the technicians, mechanics, and other personnel doing the repairs and maintenance of the industrial equipments of our clients. So the entry is debit service contract expense 500,000 as given in the problem, and credit cash 500,000 pesos. Next, the last question. Recognition of service contract revenue. What is the entry? What do you mean by recognition of service contract revenue? This means the service or the services are already rendered. If the services are already rendered, we will now recognize the revenue. If the service are not yet rendered, no revenue will be recognized. Even if the advance payment was made, the revenue is not yet to be recognized. It can only be recognized when it was rendered properly as agreed upon in accordance with the contract. So what is the entry? Actually, this is an adjusting entry. We will debit the liability account. Unearned service contract revenue, we will reduce the liability because our legal obligation was also reduced because the service was already rendered or delivered. That is why we debited unearned service contract revenue 800,000, and then we will now recognize the actual income. Service contract revenue or service contract income of 800,000 pesos. So let's prepare a T account for unearned service contract revenue so that we can determine the balance of our liability at the end of the period. So this is the T account. The original entry that we made is 1 million pesos. That is the advance payment for the services to be rendered. And then we will debit this adjusting entry of 800,000. Why debit? Because we reduce our legal obligation, because we already rendered services amounting to 800,000 pesos. So the remaining liability at the end of this period is 200,000 pesos. And this unearned service contract revenue is a long-term liability. So the concepts, theories, and illustrative problems were taken from the book written by Balix, Peralta and Balix, entitled Intermediate Accounting. So this book is available at Conanan Bookstore along CM Recto Avenue, Sampaloc, Manila. Also, the definition, some definition of terms were taken from www.maxiac.company.uk. Explanations and problems in italics are provided by me as the lecturer. Again, I want to thank everybody for listening. Thank you for your time. Thank you for having the patience that despite this long vacation caused by the crisis, you still manage to view and watch my online lectures. Thank you very much and good evening.